Good morning and welcome to today's webinar, which is titled How to Optimize ITSM with Atlassian's Jira Service Management. This virtual workshop is brought to you by Express Computer in partnership with that tech. I am Mohit Rathore, Senior Correspondent with Express Computer. In the digital age, enterprises need the capability to respond quickly to rapid business changes. And this is critical for delivering a great customer experience and employee experience. This also makes it imperative for enterprises to ensure that the IT infrastructure is flexible and scalable to meet dynamic business needs. Enterprises today need a scalable ITSM solution that will help IT operations, development, and business teams to collaborate at high velocity. With this context, today's webinar will deep dive into the details about Jira Service Management, the next generation of Jira Service Desk, which can empower teams to respond to business challenges rapidly and deliver a great customer and employee service experiences. You will also get your answers, ans- you will also get your questions answered by our experts. But before we go ahead with the sessions, I will read out some of the house rules. This audio and video webinar is being broadcasted live and will be available as on demand on our website. We will have polls in between the webinars, so I request you all to participate in the same. We will also have a round of Q&A at the end of the webinar. However, you can send in your questions anytime during the webinar using the Q&A text box. If you face any technical issues, please try to refresh your browser or else reach out to our team using the same Q&A text box. And if any one of your questions are unanswered, we will connect with you over email to address the same. So that's all from my side now. Without taking much of your time, I invite Jai Kishan Daryanani, Product Manager, Code Factory at Tech, to share his insights and take the second session forward. Jai Kishan, the floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on how to optimize ITSM with Atlassian Jira Service Management. First and foremost, I would like to thank all of you for taking this out and being here today at this hour in the morning. And so I know it's a pretty hectic day right in the middle of the week, and so that's where we are. My name is Jayakishan Daryanani, and I'm the product manager for managed hosting services at Tech, and I'll be your host today and moderator for this particular webinar. Before we begin, I just quickly like to point out a couple of things just to keep things smooth in motion. So please keep in mind about the free consultation with AdTech, free consultation offered with AdTech Atlassian experts on data center as well as ITSM migrations. So there's a link available at the feedback form, and do avail a free one-on-one consultation to understand your business needs, as well as the cost, as well as the benefits. And when do you plan to move ahead? There are some cool handouts that are going to be available in the form of ebooks, which will be shared at the on your registered email addresses. Secondly, we request all the audiences to please complete the feedback form at the end of the webinar. Hence, stick around to get some awesome insights where we uh, we would be sharing. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our eminent speakers. So first on the line, we have Mr. Deepak Sharma, who's the delivery head at the APAC, at Tech APAC. And so he's having spearheaded organizations like ZBR, Tech Mahindra, Wipro Technologies before onboarding at Tech. Deepak comes with over 18 years of experience in wrangling the complexities from managing complex products. So that's where we call him, that's where we reach out to him, basically. So, and second, we have Mr. Scott from Atlassian, who's a solution engineer manager for APAC region. He's based out of Sydney, and yeah, collaborating on mix of ranging products from cloud to data center is what he does the best. Third, we have on the lineup today is Mr. Thompson Cherian, who's the technical account manager for Atlassian for AdTech. And lastly, we have Mr. Sufyan, who's a JSM specialist at AdTech that we have. And hence, with diverse backgrounds and experiences from our speakers, we hope to start the session. And without further, with that in mind, I would like to present a very small, a very quick intro about who we are, at AdTech and what we do basically. So all right, so this is who we are at AdTech, and this is where we start with how to optimize ITSM and JSM. So what's our basic value proposition that we want to deliver is that we excel in optimizing the operational deliveries that we leverage on the frameworks by via our tools of for our orchestrations and automations and delivery management. That is where we that and that forms the fundamental core principles of our value propositions. And having more than 15 years of experience on the ALM in the ALM and the DevOps space, we do stand with certain amount of credentials, being the one of the top Atlassian Platinum partners across the world, being one of the select tier partners for AWS, having a top vendor certification from Atlassian on the marketplace, having over 8+ Atlassian verified plugins. So that puts us on the map, which would enable us used to which enables AdTech to be the preferred choice. So what's our expertise? That so we do model our frameworks based on SDLC, Agile, and Lean methodologies, and we do take pride in portraying ourselves as ITSM and scaled agile frameworks. Along with that, we do also have a very strong and a sturdy solution architects for the entire Atlassian ecosystem, who also cover the cloud infrastructure management and your automation needs. So with that, we would like to present some of our clients across India, US, Southeast Asia, who have trust in AdTech and who have been doing a good sustainable business with AdTech for the last for most part of the decade. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even say it's even couple of years, it's most part of the decade. So there are some ingrown products that we take pride in. One is the Excellentable, which is the spreadsheet for the Confluence, and the second is the Unstoppable, which makes your Atlassian tools compliant. That's one thing. And another thing that I am primarily responsible for is Code Factory, which is the managed hosting for all your development tools. That is something that we take good pride in. So without further ado, I would like to call on Mr. Deepak to talk about the different ITSM challenges that we come across. So yeah, over to you, Mr. Deepak.
Thank you, Jackishan. So today I'll go through ITSM challenges faced by different organizations and teams. You will see today we are living in a very different world. The COVID-19 crisis hit hard in both social and business terms. If you see on from business perspective, it required many changes from the products and the services offered and the way they are built, marketed, and sold. Given the nature of modern business, most changes had an impact on IT operations, including the corporate IT support capability. I can even say that even before COVID pandemic hit us, enterprises across the industry, from traditional banks to utility products to pizza delivery, everybody was expecting on-demand services more than ever before. Initiatives like automation, digital transformation, AI ops are always the top priorities of the CIOs across the globe, and there is no change now. There is so much at stake, and it's not even slowing down in this pandemic era, yet bounded by complex processes and expensive modules. The current legacy tools are inflexible and hard to adapt in this phase of increasingly dynamic business and technology needs. On top of that, the growth of modern methodologies like DevOps and Agile are putting additional pressure on our IT teams to accelerate workflow, reconsider their cultural practices, as everybody is scattered, working from different locations. But on positive note, if we'll see that IT leaders are facing a unique opportunity to help their organization to navigate this transformation. I mean, they are standing at the center of this modernization that's happening across the entire businesses, from prioritizing, managing the demand to creating seamless processes for their internal business teams. But knowing that the selection of the right ITSM tools and processes can impact business in a major way, the question that comes to our mind is, what are those ITSM challenges in current era, and what are the set of the tools which help to overcome and streamline these services? So we have listed down a few challenges which needs to be addressed before selecting and adopting any ITSM tool. These challenges has not just come from the studies of market leaders, but it has also come with our day-to-day talk with our customers, delivering services to our customers, working with our teams. So these challenges, I mean, I'll go through these challenges one by one, and want to begin with working in silos. So there is nothing in an enterprise that is not running on IT services nowadays. But dev, support, operations, all the teams are working in their own tools. There is no connectivity between these tools. So because of not connect, these are not connected with each other. So which is resulting normally the longer cycle time in collaboration. Teams are working in silos, which is delaying overall delivery and service. In fact, these tools are and processes are actually creating an inefficiency than efficiencies. I can give you an example of IT and DevOps dev teams, IT support and dev team, due to working in silos and lack of knowledge sharing, increase the cycle time of emergency bug fixing. And there are many more use cases are there which can be talked. And same way on the way we were talking about silos, cybersecurity team and IT teams are also traditionally worked independently, but the world is changing and there are severe effects due to security related issues due to these silos. So the last few years we have shown that IT threats are evolving at alarming rate. Cyber criminals are everywhere, but security, sorry, security is not embedded to in legacy ITSM processes and tools. Other than collaboration, I can say that legacy ITSM tools are also known to be extremely poor at security. Given that they are built using technology that is no longer supported today, lack of security updates, patches are not there. It is making them very extremely or very easy to attack, especially in the today's world where even a minor bug can down the tool and disrupt the service. Moving to the next point on automation, that is another challenge we when we are talking to the customers and teams they are facing. If you go for a McKinsey study, which they have done last year, so 45% of work activities can be automated with currently available technologies. But organizations and legacy tools fear those changes and get used to repetitive tasks. So most organizations waste their valuable cycle time on manual tasks and navigating operation silos due to pressure of staying operational. So we in many of our discussions with our client, they bring up this point where CEO or CIOs are assuming that the automation is done, but the team working at ground, they feel that rather than automation, they want to be staying operational. So cost and time is another factor where organizations resist automation. So they find automation costly and hard to implementation. So I think automation tools should be selected with no code capabilities and based on drag and drop rules to automate our work and solve countless use cases without adding any complexity. I can say automation is more relevant now than it was ever. Moving to the next point, notification or escalation of alert. We call it at our floor is alert fatigue. When IT staff is flooded with irrelevant alerts, they start getting alert fatigue, miss important notification and critical alerts. Every alert may produce an unexpected disaster if unnoticed, but still there are some alerts which are missed. So understanding the potential harms of such alerts, they have to be categorized properly, prioritized based on their business impact, and escalated to the right application owner without any loss of time. This preventing measures acts as a core element of the emergency management process. Moving to the next point, prioritization of strategic business request. The ever-growing demand of new services and enhancement from the business always fill the IT team's backlog. So in many cases, these business requests are coming and bundled with the large amount of work. and which normally slow down the flow of the work which currently teams are doing. So due to lack of this managing IT projects intake and priority, it is difficult to balance the current load of projects with future capacity, which leads to missing business opportunity. So I'll move to the next point, lack of proper knowledge at database. So we have different studies, starting with, according to Forrester, an average 20% of the knowledge workers' time is spent looking for information, which disrupt productivity, efficiency, and flow. Even in separate study by Google, 70% of incident reviews are forgotten. Most PIRs are buried in service tickets, chat threads, emails, or someone's document folder. By proper knowledge management, it can be converted as a perfect knowledge base for future reference. And this is one of the challenge. We'll keep hearing from the teams that there is no proper documentation is there, so that they are not going back, they are not able to go back and refer those knowledge base and what we have done in past. And then there is a customer experience management. This is very important aspect is there, even though companies are or organizations are focusing a lot on that, but still at that team level these things are missing because of legacy ITSM tools. While communication within the internal response team is important, we should not forget about keeping our customers and internal teams in the loop. Not keeping relevant stakeholders not informed, that creates normally trust deficit and unnecessary escalation. But being transparent by keeping our customer in loop under all conversations and actions behind incident resolving helps to achieve us better customer satisfaction. And this is one of very important factors are there. Next point is on, which is one of my favorite, that is on the collaboration within the team. We spoke about right tool and the processes, but I see that having right tools and processes and following the right processes often are not enough. By building a strong culture and adopting team practices based on the collaboration and transparency, organization with this kind of practices, organization can only build or develop the behavior that can make them resilient and more adaptable to change. Better collaboration is definitely a cornerstone of IT and some success. And the last two, which we challenges, which specifically added after talking to our operations team, IT teams, one is right implementation of service management tools. So we see that the teams after implementation, first the implementation is a long process, tedious process is there, and then after service management tools are implemented, teams are facing a lot of challenges because it is not implemented the way they were working. The next point is on request type categorization. This is again coming from our operations team. The sometimes request categorization creates a lot of confusion. All request types should be treated differently with distinct resolution steps, approvals, SLAs, workflows, permissions, or it may result in increase in team workload and IT costs. So I want to summarize. To summarize, I can say that the days of costly legacy ITSM tools that are heavy and rigid are over. In today's world of high customers' expectation and demand for always-on services, IT team needs modern ITSM tool to deliver end-to-end service faster and with agility. But deciding which ITSM tool solution meets IT needs for flexibility and collaboration while delivering the highest ROI can be difficult. To talk about our next topic and how JSM tools addressing these challenges to bring better ROI, improve productivity, and great saving, I would like to pass control to Mr. Jackishan.
Thanks, Deepak. That was really insightful and on the challenges that most of us are facing on day-to-day lives. With that in mind, I would like to invite Mr. Scott to address one of the very basic understandings that we have come across. There is that is the one of the very basic problem, or one of the primary fundamental question, that what is the difference between JSD and JSM, JSD over JSM, and benefits do customer avail in terms of having an adoption of the new technology. So with that, I would like to invite Scott to take over from here onwards.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Deepak. And on behalf of Atlassian, welcome everyone. I guess first and foremost, I hope everybody is keeping safe. I know things are still a bit fluid in many parts of the world. So I hope you're all able to stay safe and healthy, and everything is okay on that front. I think it's quite helpful to understand, specific to ITSM, some of the drivers that Deepak called out. I guess I would encapsulate that from my perspective along a few main criteria. We heard first and foremost this idea of data being siloed across different teams. Then there were also aspects of kind of a large volume or a kind of a heavy signal to noise ratio. And so what can be done in terms of balancing that, and along the way being able to automate and route and really being able to improve the efficiency as well as the overall velocity of different types of solutions, as well as ideally some level of understanding to help facilitate turnaround and self-service and things of that nature. So to what Jay had just positioned to me, what does that mean, not only from an Atlassian perspective, but knowing that we've recently gone through what can easily look like just a bit of rebranding, kind of Jira Service Desk to Jira Service Management. And what does that really mean above and beyond changing the logo? What are some of the new features about that today? And where do we plan on taking that near term and longer term in the solution as well? So I want to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes walking through some of those aspects as well. Just to resurface a couple of things in terms of main touch points, and again, maybe phrasing some of the things that Deepak touched on in a slightly different way as part of that. But when you think of ITSM solutions in general and some of the higher level business challenges that we're tackling, I think for any type of digital products and services, first and foremost, we're just trying to find a way to get things out there faster, right? Well, what are the ways in which, again, to improve velocity, not only for resolving issues, but code deployment and keeping things operational. And there are a number of examples around that. One which comes to mind here is like Lucid Motors, which you may or may not have heard of. But if anyone has actually seen the ads for everything that these amazing vehicles do, from being able to customize to tailor the software that runs to actually having the hardware delivered, it's an amazing customer experience that's part of that in terms of being able to just get things out the door faster, for one. Certainly in terms of, especially now over the last year, everybody working from home, services always being on, many, if not all of us having to deal with a number of different teams across geography. How do we keep services always on, whether that's for software that we're interacting with or building, or even on a personal level? The fact that, again, and still in some areas, things like gyms are closed. So what do you do to stay healthy? I go out and run every day. I'm fortunate enough to live near a park, but not everyone has that option. So many of you may have heard of Peloton or know somebody who has gotten hooked into that. And what does that mean for them as an organization, as their subscriptions jumped 94% in very short order when all the gyms had to shut down? So that's another example of a company that, to say things are crucial for remaining always on, certainly in this environment, that is well and truly the case for them as well. A little bit closer to home for me here, based in Sydney, based in Australia, the need to consistently deliver not just experiences, but flawless, seamless experiences, especially as it pertains to healthcare. So Health Direct Australia, as soon as the pandemic flared up and we knew we needed to provide services a number of different ways, basically different levels of telemedicine became key, not only for rural parts of the country, but just to be able to meet capacity, to meet demand, because trying to get a booking at a GP, much less go into a hospital, was at times quite challenging. So Health Direct Australia, in very short order at the early days of the pandemic, was able to implement a new help desk to address questions and concerns around COVID, and to roll that out and to facilitate a national call center for 3,500 of their representatives to then service the population at large, being an Australian citizen. So just a few examples, like real life examples of where this applies and some of the key challenges that come up as part of that. I do think from an overall Atlassian perspective that we certainly have a unique angle on this because, and some of you may have seen this, our core mission statement, unleashing the potential of every team. And it's easy to dismiss this as a one-line marketing tagline that's out there that, every company has that mission statement, but it really does touch on a core part of our ethos at Atlassian, being able to well and truly find ways to further unleash what different teams can do, whether they're development teams, as many of you are likely accustomed to in terms of working with Atlassian. When I first started here several years ago, if people hadn't heard of Atlassian or seen the Atlassian logo, they probably heard of Jira and or Confluence, and they're like, you're that company. Yeah, our developers use that. They love that. It's great. We know how to build our code. That gets us more agile in terms of being able to decentralize those activities, and that team is taken on board in terms of using Atlassian. So that's our cornerstone. That's where we've started. That's certainly, again, one area where we're quite often thought of, but certainly not being limited to there, extending off of that to break down silos, some of which Deepak touched on as well, and being able to take the development activities that are done by development teams and actually store the code and package and build and test and ultimately deploy those aspects around that too. So moving from agile to DevOps by incorporating a number of different products integrated into our platform as well. And then, as evidenced by this call, taking that on through how does that roll out into production? What happens when changes are needed, when problems are encountered, when incidents happen, because it's software, it breaks. The nice thing from an Atlassian perspective, though, is that we are easily across all of that, from how code is conceptualized to built to deployed and operationalized. We have products and solutions that really fit across that suite, as well as ways to extend functionality through a marketplace across a number of different vendors for other tools that I'm sure many of you are using, and really being able to incorporate a number of different tools that I'm sure you've taken on board as part of that as well. So this is our unique kind of continuum view of things that will underlie a lot of what we'll talk about. Again, knowing we'll stay focused on the right, but I think we do have a bit of a unique advantage in that we can span across all of this, that we can, by definition, break down many of those silos that were called out as one of the core elements or core challenges of an ITSM approach as well. With that, we did start with a solution in the ITSM area. It was called Jira Service Desk, or JSD. We did go through not that long ago a bit of a rebranding, which again can look quite superficial. It's like, oh yeah, it's the same logo. Instead of Jira Service Desk, it's Jira Service Management. That's great. Something kept your marketing team busy, right, Atlassian? Well, no, there's actually a little bit more underneath this than just focusing on the naming change, but actually embedding, to touch on some of these challenges, embedding new functionality, whether it was built by us and or a number of different acquisitions that some of you may have seen, which now kind of fold in to becoming first-class components of Jira Service Management, or JSM. So as we look across not only the name change, but what are those functional areas, you may have heard announcements as recently as Proforma from ThinkTilt, which was an add-on that you could always buy separately. We thought, yeah, we like what that company does. They do really cool stuff with being able to customize user forms in terms of capturing service requests. We're going to go ahead and just fold that in and make that a core part of JSM as well. So ThinkTilt was an acquisition that we made not that long ago to help those constituencies for manual types of inputs into an ITSM arena. Similarly for help, not every user, not every intended end user likes to go to a web form. Maybe they're already interacting with some of your teams through Microsoft Teams or through Slack, like we use here at Atlassian. How can we capture that context, leverage all that context that exists in Slack, and carry that across directly into JSM? That conduit is in fact provided by help. Underneath that, being able to take not only manually entered information, but data that streams across from a number of other systems, so that, as Deepak called out, stuff isn't missed, that you're across all the different alerts, that you know how to categorize and deduplicate and escalate things appropriately. What can you do at Atlassian to help really automate a lot of sifting through that information and making sense of it? That's Ops Genie. And that is now folded in as part of Jira Service Management as well. Opsgenie alone can be its own, not only segment, but its own webinar. And I'm pleased to have on this call today part of our team, Thompson, who will be walking through that a bit more just for that functional piece. But the last thing I did want to call out today in terms of rounding out what we do on the ITSM front is also including not only tracking different inputs of information, again, whether it's manually or derived from other systems, but how do we matrix that back to, for example, different software systems or different assets that you may have internally, building out a different type of asset database or CMDB types of capabilities. We also acquired Mindville and their Insight products, and we're folding that in as well. So sensing a theme here, right? There's a lot that we're investing. I think it shows just how dedicated we are to this space, how seriously we at Atlassian take ITSM as a solution set that we're going to lean heavily into, and that we're now, to some extent, layering in different levels of functionality and making these native components of JSM as well. So I'm just calling out the highest of highlights here. I'll walk through a little bit more in the following slides, some of the things that I wanted to ensure you all were across, but there is also a URL at the bottom that any of you can track to for additional information on this as well. So again, going back to items like ThinkTilt, a lot of ITSM usually involves a user at a keyboard needing a new piece of information. I had a new hire last week. Think of all the activities that flow in around that, right? Different logins it's set up, hardware that has to be delivered. How do we trigger onboarding, especially with everyone working from home? Well, to make that easier, rather than having to stumble around and figure out which site or which portal or which page to trigger the activity, I'll go to one service portal. It immediately identifies by keyword the form that I need to drop into, and products like Proforma can really heavily tailor, can make it quite intuitive to capture and validate information in real time, to even have cascading types of forms that will trigger based on selections that I take along the way to facilitate input of that information, to then subsequently route it and escalate it to a number of different teams, and to just have a large number of templates to really get you started in short order so that you don't have to necessarily build them from scratch, but can take some templates that we provide you and allow you to extend that capability straight away. So Proforma from ThinkTilt is one angle in terms of onboarding a lot of that information. I think the really exciting thing that I've noticed lately is not only that, because every ITSM solution has that kind of an approach, but how do we take that and using help, take contextual information that again comes through chat tools, which we all use at different organizations. Well, rather than having a context switch to another screen, wouldn't it be nice if, for example, like we do at Atlassian, if I'm in a Slack channel and I'm asking for help somewhere and I simply want to trigger an activity or open a service request by applying an emoji, and rather than having to cut and paste or replicate all that information, I can do it right in line. And furthermore, I can have updates as I make them in that chat utility, carry back to the Jira Service Management system and vice versa, have any updates that come behind the scenes and flow that back across the Slack as well. I think this is a fantastic way to really meet the customer where they are and really drastically reduce the friction level for taking that information on board. So Proforma is great for the areas where you need more structured input, but for real life examples, and again, meeting the customer where they're at, help is an amazing way to take that one level further as well. Both of these are examples, are kind of front end user input types of activities, but that's great, Scott. What about all this other information we have to manage internally, and infrastructure and security alerts and all these messages that float between systems that we also have to be on top of for various problems or incidents in particular? This is where, again, I'll defer to Thompson to get into the particulars here, but Opsgenie is an amazing tool to help pull together information coming from users and systems to really allow a level of intelligence on how each of these are tracked and escalated and routed and done in a pretty time efficient and amazing fashion, and still flowing that information back out to a number of systems as well to keep your IT teams focused, especially where incidents are concerned, on just tackling that particular problem, while also minimizing the number of duplicate alerts that are coming in from users once a problem occurs as well. So Opsgenie has a lot of incredible workflow and automation capabilities at its core that helps to really drive a lot of those scenarios. And again, Thompson will walk us through that a bit more as well. I think for me in particular, when I look again across that unique view we have from the Atlassian side, spanning again from conceptualization of products to how code is built, to tested and deployed and operationalized, we can then start to do interesting things such as the screenshot that's shown here. If an incident occurs around a particular service, well, yeah, I can track that through Jira Service Management, but I can also pair that up with code information to start to draw correlations on recent deployments through Bitbucket, for example. And I can get a lot more data points in terms of potentially resolving incidents when they occur that much faster. So really driving not only just a way to bring together and swarm around different activities, but using all those data points to further surface proactive, actionable types of elements as well. And so this is one example that we put out there recently, and there will be a number of others a little bit later on. The last thing though, in terms of taking inputs that I would mention is the fact that we can, again, pair up all of this with all the different services that you've defined, different operational infrastructure components that you're managing, pieces of hardware to build out a full asset repository. And this is again done through Insight by Mindville, where we can not only start to track all of that and tie it potentially to different incidents, but we can even build out relationships between different objects as well. You can be across in a very proactive way before changes are rolled out, what other systems you might touch, and give a little bit more thought in terms of assessing the risk prior to rolling out changes versus just reacting to them as well. And it's on this last front that I'll leave you with a couple of additional thoughts in terms of all of this is quite often done for, again, responding. We usually think of, fire drill mode, something is broken. How do we fix it in the ITSM world? Well, again, given the fact that we're aware of things from when code is built to when it's deployed, why not take some of this understanding? Why not take an additional level of analytics so that we can push that back into the development organization? And one of the things that we're doing through a product that's in not only beta, but alpha. So this is very conceptual at this point, what I'm showing here. But how do we drive that into a service catalog that developers can see, not only to reuse different services or microservices or applications that are out there, but see the full gamut in terms of what that service is intended to do, the particulars on the code that's around it, how that code component is ultimately ranked based on a number of metrics as shown on the right. What does it mean in terms of where it's being used elsewhere? Has it had many incidents in the past? How reliable is this service? How buggy is the service? Whatever metric you want to put there in terms of quantifying a number of different areas for utilization and driving that down for reuse or at least reinspection across the development teams rather than duplicating a lot of functionality, as well as, again, tying it to real-time operational analytics so that we know, is this meeting our targets in terms of RTO, RPO, SLA, pick your acronym soup on the ITSM front, but how reliable is this? And how can we take that on board in terms of, again, not only responding to change or incidents, but how we might want to or not better embed these different services or potentially even decommission some of these services if there are a lot of issues, but doing that in a more proactive front as well. So this idea of Compass, which is again currently in alpha, is meant to drive a lot of that information, kind of flow it back earlier on into the continuum that I was showing earlier. Again, I think this is a way in which we definitely have a unique perspective on things, given our background, given our history, given the products that we bring to bear, not only in ITSM, but in a number of different areas. And so from a product angle, I think there's quite a bit that we can do here as well. The final thing that I'll touch on though, and for some of you who may have been on other webinars that I've done in the past, you'll know that I probably always tend to raise this. I do want to very quickly touch on not only the product side, but quite often we get asked, hey, Atlassian, what's the best way to implement some of these products, these services? What should we be thinking of in terms of not only just features and products, but how our teams operate, and what about methodology, and kind of what are your best practices, templates in ITSM or other areas? Good news is we package these up and make them freely available to anybody who wants them. So if you go to Atlassian.com/team playbook, all of these are packaged and made available, and it will show you for any number of teams how to establish your baseline and a number of different motions that we've utilized and a lot of large customers that we have around the globe have utilized to then improve different metrics along the way as part of that. These plays are not, I repeat, they are not just for development teams. It could be used by leadership, by HR, by IT, by finance. We've seen these used in a number of different areas to help bring attention to, again, not only the functional aspect of things, but best practices on how they're implemented. If you've looked at this in the past, fantastic. Look again. There are 47 plays out there. I actually had to update my slide in this deck from the last time I gave it when there were 44. And I think before that, there were 42. And a lot of these tend to get slotted out there for particular solution spaces like ITSM. So if you've looked in the past, please look again. Again, it is our packaged way of sharing with you all those best practices that we quite often get asked for. It started off from our own internal curiosity on how to improve team efficiency. It's since been augmented by thousands of large global customers along the way as part of that. So those are the highlights on what I wanted to share with you. Again, we could spend a lot of time just on this topic, but hopefully that gets you across JSD to JSM, why we went through the rebranding, what that means in terms of not only the new nomenclature, but some of the new features, some of the new acquisitions. And if nothing else, it definitely shows you like just how serious and how dedicated Atlassian is to this space. So that's the end of my bit. And I will at this point hand it back to Jay.
That was really amazing, Scott, and I hope that did really answer most of the questions from the audiences on what exactly where exactly do we start. Do we even fit in to the ITSM framework, or are we even capable? And what exactly, even if we do have certain challenges, how do we come across that? So those do definitely come across. That was really insightful. So with that, without any further ado, I would like to have some poll. So my favorite part of the webinar is the poll questions. So why not we have the first poll questions to our audiences so that we can get things moving. Yeah. So what are the major challenges that you have in ITSM? So this would, based on the previous conversations. So do you have incident management? Is the SLA breach one of your primary concerns, or is it the repetitive tickets, or even the most obvious is asset management or the implementation part of it, or what's it? Yeah. So you got 45 seconds to answer before we move ahead to an interesting topic. So SLA breaches, as it turned out to be the highest as anticipated, and asset management followed by the reduced repetitive tickets, which is what Scott was and Deepak was also trying to address, that this is where the actual problem lies, and this is what JSM addresses. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Thompson Cherian to talk about a very specific topic inside the JSM, that is the Ops Genie part of it. How does it bring about, how does it resolve a couple of issues that we have at in hand, and how do we move ahead with that? Yeah, over to you, Thompson.
So as we heard, Jira Service Management increases the visibility of work and the vital information across your organization. By using Jira Service Management, this enables teams to deliver great customer and employee service experiences. So coming back to Ops Genie is our on-call and alert management software. It empowers teams to respond, resolve, and learn from every incident. It was previously available as a standalone offering, but now it is the core engine behind Jira Service Management's incident management capabilities. Ops Genie and Jira Service Management are two of our fastest growing products. They were designed to help high velocity IT, dev, and operations team to keep their services running always, and also to perform at high levels. As I said earlier, Ops Genie was a separate product which Jira Service Desk customers needed to purchase and integrate. But now with Jira Service Management, Ops Genie comes integrated, and this further enhances the full-scale ITSM capabilities of our Atlassian products. And these are the key features that Jira Service Management offers in terms of the integration that Ops Genie is giving for incident management. We have the option to integrate 200 plus tools for alert and also service management. there are better escalation policies, or I can say more advanced escalation and routing policies. You have the option to configure on-call schedules as you would require for an ITSM or ITIL tool, and notifications are sent to on-call agents via text, phone call, email, or push. I'll go right into the demo, a quick demo. It's not deep, but a quick demo more focusing on the integration with OpsGenie and also the incident management capabilities that OpsGenie is offering with Jira Service Management. So the key feature that you would see straight away in terms of the Jira Service Management's new look is that, as Deepak mentioned, we are focusing more on categorizing the issues in terms of the type of incident that we are raising. So we are having incidents, problems, change, and all this enables to quickly filter the type of work that we have, right? And this is more of Atlassian's focus of having Jira Service Management more of an ITSM and ITIL focused tool. And the key features that we have by including OpsGenie is bringing the services, alerts, and on-call, right? Now with OpsGenie, we are having a centralized way of providing easier access for the agents to view the associated services. They have the option to view the alerts and on-call, and all of that is configured in OpsGenie, as well as services is also a key feature that is configurable in Jira Service Management. Now, services are the different products or application that your organization would be using, and this enables the agent to understand which particular service a request is affected. And for example, if we open a particular service here, we can see the relationship the service has with other services. So if a service is depending on multiple services, or if one of the key service, let's say an incident is raised and one of the key services it's related to one of the key services, this enables the agent to be proactive in informing the on-call team that, hey, this particular AWS service has failed, and this means that the other services that are depending on the service might also not work, and they can be proactive in preventing further risk. And these services are also available in OpsGenie. So I'll just go to OpsGenie for 1 second. So the same services that we create and manage in OpsGenie will be the same services that are available in Jira Service Management. So the services are centralized, so you don't need to recreate the services in OpsGenie and Service Management. Now, apart from the services, the core feature of OpsGenie is the alerts feature, right? Many organizations find it difficult. Like, they have a lot of tools. They have all the alerts. They get alerts from many of the monitoring tools, but what to do with the alerts is the most confusing part, right? And this is a key feature in with Jira Service Management. Every alert that you receive are actionable. When you receive an alert from a particular tool, what is the next follow-up action that you need to do, and the easier part or the better part is it's automated, so that the alert goes to the right team, the right action, and if you need to create an incident proactively based on alert, that's also a core capability that OpsGenie is offering. Another key feature that the team has is the on-call feature. So if we go to in Jira Service Management itself, the agent who is working with the customers in resolving the incidents, they can see the on-call schedule directly in Jira Service Management itself. They don't need to open OpsGenie, or they don't need access to OpsGenie for that. So in Jira Service Management itself, they can open the required project, they can see the on-call schedule, and this enables them to reach to the right person or the right team in the on-call if a related incident is raised. Let's go back to the cube. So I'm going to the incidents, and let's see all the open incidents. Now, as I said earlier, another core feature, sorry, I'll just go back to the right project. So another core feature that we have is the agents have the view to see all the incidents in relation to the affected services. Now, for example, he's seeing multiple incidents related to OpenVPN services. He can select all of them together and has the option to link it to a major incident. Now, a major incident is the place where the on-call team or the actual team that's working hands-on in the incident comes together and tries to resolve it. And all major incidents are worked upon in OpsGenie. Now, before that, let's just open one of the incidents directly here. Yeah, and once you open an incident, a key feature that you can see here is that it shows the affected services, and the affected services, coupling with automation rules helps the agent to know which team to reach out, whom to contact. And as Scott mentioned, since we have integrated Jira Service, Insight also with Jira Service Management coupled with OpsGenie, this gives more details. For example, which business service, which application it is linked with. So it enables them to have more details and more context, which they can further pass upon to the on-call team who's working on the issue for a faster resolution. Let's go to an open incident now, and I'll just showcase how we create a major incident. So an agent notices an on-call incident, and they have the option where they can link it to a major incident. So either they can link it to one of the existing incidents, or they have the option to create a major incident for resolving it. Let's link it to an existing incident. And time is short, I'll just quickly run through how the major incident works in OpsGenie. Yeah, so once a major incident is created, it's the on-call team that further uses OpsGenie to work on this particular incident. They have the option to, the default descriptions and fields that are there in Jira Service Management can be brought into the description field. And then together as a team, they have a more context on working on it. One is they can see what are the related incidents this major incident is having. They have the option to link it to a particular issue in Jira. Maybe it might be a bug fix that the software development team is working on fixing the incident. And as mentioned earlier, we have the integration with Bitbucket where they can see the, I'll show the screenshot later, where we can see the Bitbucket deployment pipelines or the releases that happened, and correlate that if it was a particular deployment or release that caused that incident, as well as they can create a Slack channel where the team can swam together, work on resolving it. And within OpsGenie itself, you have an incident command center that comes fully fledged with even video conferencing also, that enables the team to resolve the issue together. And once an incident is resolved, or they have closed the incident, the team then can do a post-mortem report that enables them to be more proactive in preventing such incidents in the future, as well as when similar incidents come up, the team can search, or the tool will mention which post-mortem report that they need to refer to prevent such issues from further repeating. This I would like to go back to the presentation. Now, apart from the showcase integrated incident management capabilities, at its heart, OpsGenie manages alerts related to your IT services and infrastructure. It centralizes all the alerts from monitoring, service desk tools, logging tools. So as I said, the flood of alerts that you have from all these tools become actionable insights with OpsGenie. Now, even if there are tools that are not mentioned here, we provide a very robust API and webhook and email integrations that enable OpsGenie to ingest any kind of signal that indicates a change in the health of your services from across your IT and dev stack. And one of the key things that make OpsGenie so powerful is that it uses multiple notification channels, including mobile push, SMS, voice calls, emails, and other chat tools. And each user can set the notification preference that are right for them. With OpsGenie, this enables that no critical alerts are missed. And once OpsGenie sends a notification, it empowers the responder to take immediate action. This is the mobile app. With the tap of one finger, you're able to, for example, you can escalate, you can add a responder, or even take a more powerful action like restarting an EC2 instance. Just 1 second. Yeah. And once you have alerts configured, you can configure automated escalations that enable that none of your alerts are missed. And as many as mentioned, the key challenge of practicing ITSM is that your SLAs are met, that you don't miss your SLAs. And having alerts escalated in case the proper team doesn't respond in time is a key feature that enables OpsGenie to have your SLAs met. And you can leverage chat-op tools such as Slack and MS Teams for instant collaboration and to discuss follow-up actions. And with JSM Premium, you can even correlate your incidents to code deployments. And finally, you can create a virtual war room complete with video conferencing. That's a functionality that you have with Opsgenie that enables the right team to swam together and work in resolving the incident the earliest. Once an incident is resolved, we can create and share postmortem reports, which enables the team to have valuable insights and helps in faster resolution of any similar new incidents. There are two customer case study stories, but since time is short, I am not going in detail with them. To summarize, Looker is a business intelligence software platform, and the key requirement that they wanted is to ensure that they have a platform that is running 24/7, and for that, it was business critical for them not to miss any alerts and ensure that the response time and SLA commitments are met with zero compromise. For them, Opsgenie enabled them to standardize the way they manage the alerts and have a constant way of notification. As I said, most of the other ITSM tools, when they focus on standardizing the ITSM practices, managing and standardizing alerts is a key feature that many of them miss. And having Opsgenie with Jira Service Management together enabled Looker in standardizing that. And this enabled them to manage alerts on time and enable them not only for them, the key challenge was to meet the increasing demands of their customers since they were moving to 24/7 support, and again segregating all the alerts that they have been receiving into a centralized channel. So again, time is short. Probably after the session, AdTech will be sharing these case studies directly with you. To summarize, with the help of Opsgenie, Jira Service Management increases the visibility of work between the IT, dev, and operations. And this empowers teams in responding to resolve issues in a faster and smarter way while making their work easier. This is just a brief glance of our ITSM customers, and with this I would like to conclude, and I hope I did due justice in the time given to give a high-level overview of how incident management works in JSM. And over to you, J. Krishnan. Thank you.
That was quick. Actually, I would say I haven't had the experience of having an overview of Opsgenie that quick and that efficiently. So that was really quick on your part. Thanks, Thompson, of being well aware of the time, and thank you for that. With that in mind, I would just like to have one more poll question before we move on to the next one. So can we have the second poll question before we move ahead? Yeah. So which tools are you using for ITSM right now? So I've been seeing a lot of Q&As coming up on various different tools that everyone is using currently. So that's something that we would like to address. What is it? JSM? Is it Zendesk, Freshdesk, or BMC Remedy, or is it ServiceNow? What's exactly your current preference that you are on? So with that in mind, probably we could take ahead with the next set of. You could proceed ahead. Perfect. So Zendesk, I think ServiceNow, dominates the current audience preferred flavor, followed by JSM as well as others. There have been a lot of others that we have been coming across. But so with that in mind, along with JSD, so with that in mind, we would like to invite our last speaker for the day, that is Mr. Sufyan Khan. He would be going through a very specific one single case story, one single success story that we have successfully managed to migrate from one of the tools to JSM. So with that in mind, I would like to invite Sufyan to go with the success story. It seems like due to time frames, I think we would it'll be a little difficult. So with that in mind, so what we would be doing is we would be sharing these success stories. I thought we would have time. I didn't keep a track of time, but I'll be very frank to everyone. But so what we'll be doing is we'll be sharing the success stories into your email along with the other relative informations. So with that, we would like to conclude this particular webinar. And before we move ahead, let's move on to the Q&A part of it. And so I would like to open the floor for the Q&A and have our panelists answer as many questions as possible. So let's so we have a 10 minutes on our time frame for the Q&A. So I would like the audience to post as many questions as possible, so which can be answered as quickly.
Just so you know, Jay, there have been a few
Yeah.
coming in, but I've been behind, as always, I've been behind the
Yes.
scenes, like answering what I could. So.
Thanks. Thanks as always, Scott. So yeah, and I did okay. Yeah, there is one particular. I was just there was one particular question that I had. Yeah. So what's the risk assessment? So what? So yeah, we have one of the questions that we wanted to ask Scott was what's the risk assessment while migrating from one particular tool to JSM? How do we so basically what I'm trying to understand is that it's basically trying to assess what's the risk is. So how do we assess the risk of our current tool over JSM? Yeah, Scott, would you like to take this?
Yeah, it's a pretty broad topic, right? Because there's so many different things that someone could be doing in ITSM, just regardless of which tool is actually being used. Yeah, let me step back and kind of come back to that quickly, because some of the questions that I did see, there was a common theme with a lot of the questions that came across about can we integrate with product X, Y, and Z? One of the things that we didn't touch on explicitly, but I wanted to just surface it on this call, was the fact that, like many of our products, Opsgenie does have an extension point. So there are packaged integrations with a number of different source systems, monitoring tools, other external systems. I think somebody did it, as is always the case. There's always one or two applications that come up where there isn't a package module for, but that's okay, because we do also have these common denominator, right? We do also have a REST API. So if you do need something as a one-off customization, that option is always available as well, just to extend the footprint of things that Opsgenie needs to hook into as part of that. With regards to moving from another system into Jira Service Management, and what does that look like and what's the risk? Because yeah, there's a lot there to unpack. I would say a couple of things. First of all, whether or not you're an existing Atlassian customer, you can quite easily spin up a Jira Service Management instance in the cloud. And we write on top of AWS in terms of making that available. So if you're familiar with that operational environment, it's very easy to start that process, just to have a go, to take a look at what we provide on that front, and to get a sense of what are the types of features that you want to then bring across as part of that. I think if you're on an existing system today, what I've typically seen isn't so much a migration, it's more you want to kind of redo some of the processes, or you want to start opening up and creating service desk capabilities for additional departments. So it's usually more of a point in time forward, whether it's for an existing project and redoing it, or new projects that you want to bring under that larger umbrella as well. I don't see it so often that we're actually migrating stuff across, like you would see with a code repository, for example, going into Bitbucket, different story. You want to bring the code across and all the metadata and all the snapshot activity around that. I don't quite see that as often with JSM, but if that's something that is needed in terms of understanding your current state, knowing fully what our own products do, I'd actually say that the gang at EdTech are best placed to actually be across that fully, right? Is really being across and understanding that business analysis and knowing how to best utilize features in JSM and getting you there, because it's not like it's a database where you're just going to do an export to a CSV file and walk it over the next thing and load it up. You kind of need to understand what you're trying to achieve with it, and are there better ways possibly to do it in the new solution. And that takes a level of understanding that we rely on our partners on to be able to really be experts in that area. So less about product, more about partner and services.
One of the very broad questions that I'm getting on the Q&A list is generally what's the time frame that we look at, when we're migrating from any of our tools, let's say from Zendesk or even ServiceNow, or even or any of our current tools to JSM. What's generally the time frame that we should be looking at, and what's the kind of a benchmarking factors that we...
Yeah, so I'll give the very broad brush
very
of it
broad,
from an Atlassian perspective.
broad,
And then if you have any specific examples for projects that you may have been through, feel free to add on off of that. I would say in this space, when you are looking at a migration from a Zendesk, for example, where it's that type of a scenario, that type of a use case, we're probably looking more in terms of months. So the more like the 4 to 6 month ish type time frame feels about right for that scenario. Obviously, if it's something more involved or more extensive in terms of customizations, all of that's going to blow that estimate out a bit. But I think from a high level Atlassian perspective, whether it's migration of our own products from one deployment option to another or bringing on board additional projects, at a medium to enterprise level utilization, we're typically seeing kind of 6 to 9 months as the rough range of it, just to mentally slot you into the right order of magnitude.
And that's exactly what we do also recommend, and the success stories that will be published, that we'll be sending out to the audiences, would cover the same, almost a similar amount of time frame, if not the less, depending on the customer size, as well as the number of users, as well as the number of integrations that that the customer, or is there any customer integrations that that any of them want to have it along with JSM, or where exactly do we stand, basically on that. So that's also a major factor, adding to the time frame. So that's probably one of the reasons why we've kept a one-on-one consultation of in order to get the customer started, wherein this is a kind of an offering from AdTech, wherein we do want to highlight that particular fact. So this is a good opportunity for everyone to make sure that there at least the fundamental core starting doubts are clarified. So with that in mind, I would like to end this particular webinar, and I hope the audiences had a great time, and we'll be reaching out to the audiences. If at all your questions have been unanswered, we'll be reaching out to the audiences, as well as with the emails of the success stories, so that you can probably correlate on what's exactly happening and how does it relate to your current existing environment. So with that in mind, yeah, I would like to thank all the panelists as well as the audiences. For sparing time, for taking out time and attending this session. So thank you for all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.